paraphrase John Gruden, Coach John Gruden. Tag Greason, when he gets on an issue that he cares about, he's as tough as a $2 steak. And he'll chew on it about as much as he can, and he's not going to let go. And for those of us who do believe that government closest to the people best reflects their views, and we don't want a remote, centralized, overburdensome, dictating, taxing, mandating federal government, we do have to have good men and women serving in local office and in the state legislature, because the reality is the states are the laboratories of innovation, the laboratories of democracy. And the General Assembly is going to be really important. That's where the laws are made that affect us the most. Our schools, our safety of our communities, the desirability or attractiveness of Virginia as a place for people to expand their business, start a business, or relocate their business. Those laws you are passing, Tag, matter a great deal for Virginia. Yes. And I think we all, hopefully, with Patricia and others, we're going to have a majority in the state Senate as well, and that also is going to make Virginia an even better place for all of us to live, learn, work, and to raise our families. So without any further ado, I want to present to you the man of the day, on the draft day, our #1 draft choice, a good scout, a good man, a fighter for families, taxpayers, and business owners, a true, wonderful leader and light for Loudoun County, Tag Greason. Tag.
Governor, thank you very much. That was excellent. I like the $2 steak. Mary Beth will like it better. She'll remind me of that. You know, you go into this thing knowing what you're about to do, and you know the governor spoke very eloquently about what I think. This matters. The things we do in Richmond matter. And you sent me there to be true to my ideals and true to the things that I committed to you 2.5 years ago that I would do when I got there. And, you know, 1,400 votes per year later, I'm just going to give you a quick scorecard, and you tell me how well we did in the Virginia House of Delegates, okay? We balanced the budget that we inherited from our former governor, Tim Kaine, which had a shortfall of $4.2 billion in Virginia. And we balanced it in that session by cutting spending. That's what we are asked to do, and that's what we did. So that's point #1 on our scorecard. Point #2 on the scorecard. It knocked on thousands of doors, and we heard traffic, education, economy, jobs. And that's what we heard from everybody, consistently. So we went down there with the opportunity this year to raise $4 billion in transportation funding for the Commonwealth. Could you imagine if I came back here and I said, you know what, I had a chance to vote positively for $4 billion for transportation, but I passed on it. Probably not the best decision, although I had colleagues who voted against that transportation bill who live in Arlington and Alexandria and other places like that. But we did what we were asked to do, find a solution for transportation. And that is one step in a long journey to help solve these problems here in the Commonwealth. So that's point #2. We have a Virginia retirement system that most of you probably don't know a lot about. But in Virginia, the employees don't pay into their retirement. We pay into their retirement for them, and then we pay the match for them. We've got to change that. There isn't a private company in the country that would do that for their employees. And we had to make some hard decisions to restructure the Virginia retirement system, bend that cost curve. And you know why? Because we're going to have people working for the state for years that rely on a retirement system that is viable and works for them. Last couple things I'll share with you on our report card. Does anybody know what the LCI is? It's the composite index that determines how localities receive their state money for education. And it gets re-evaluated every 2 years. Governor Kaine made a decision to not re-evaluate it 2 years ago, when I was down there for the first time, and that decision, which has never been made ever before, cost Loudoun County $38 million. And I walked door to door to every senator and every delegate, Republican and Democrat from Northern Virginia, and we all signed a letter to Bob McDonald saying we have got to reverse that decision that Tim Kaine made. We've got to do it to put the money back in education where it belongs. And that was a decision that I made early on as a freshman, that I don't care if you're a senator or a House of Delegates member, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, this is the right thing for us to do. We did it, and we changed that decision and put $38 million back in Loudoun County. And lastly, the governor touched on it, and something that I'm most proud of. There was an article in the Washington Examiner that said, "Tag Greason, Loudoun County Democrat, carries autism bill to help families who are touched by that disorder." And I called him, Lena called him, and the reporter said, "Well, we just assumed. I mean, no Republican would do something this caring and this impactful for our families." And it was a legitimate, well, not for me legitimate, but to that person, that reporter, they just assumed that this was a Democrat carrying this piece of legislation. And that validated, in that instance, every reason why I carried that bill. Because it was the right thing to do. Autism affects 1 in 70 boys and 1 in 110 children. And yes, it is going to cost businesses about this much more, 83 cents per member per month. We spend more on Starbucks than we're going to spend on covering autism. It's going to raise the state insurance 0.1% to do the right things for these families who are going bankrupt caring for their children. So it's not an R issue, it's not a D issue, it's an issue that takes care of the families of Virginia, and we got the bill passed. And the bill is now in a posture that will turn into law on midnight on May 6th, and I could not be more pleased for the families of Virginia who will benefit from that piece of legislation. Randy Minshew handed this to me very appropriately. "Beware of Republicans bearing common sense." It's from the Washington Post, and I tell you, beware of us, because we do the right things for the right reasons without sacrificing our principles so that we can solve problems, because that's what you asked me to do. I'll end by saying I'm going to ask you to do it again. I'm running again, as you well know. The election is in November. I cannot believe I'm already doing this again. I thought I just did this once, but it's in November, and it is going to take a toll. Everyone here in the room has supported me in the past. You've supported me tonight. I ask for your support going forward, and I can't thank you enough for coming tonight. Thank you very much.